Hey, what's up, agency owners, e-commerce businesses, online businesses? Welcome to another Cloudways Black Friday Cyber Monday Prepathon, where our goal is to help you prepare for the best Black Friday Cyber Monday season that your business has ever had. I know there are some economic headwinds, some challenges, inflation, all these different problems out there in the world, but you still have complete control over your business. You can find great strategies, find great tactics to grow even in challenging times. And so we've been lining up some of the world's best and foremost experts on agency, on e-commerce, on how to grow your business and be successful this Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And I'm really excited to welcome Cliff Almeida to the program here. Cliff and I go way back. We've been working on our businesses and growing together for just about a decade, which is pretty crazy, man. It's great to see your success and everything that you've accomplished with your businesses. Cliff owns a couple of different companies. His agency, Hire a Wiz, he's been running that business for over 20 years, so websites and digital marketing. And he also launched My Web Audit back in 2018. And it's an amazing SaaS platform that helps agencies sell more effectively to businesses by giving them all these amazing insights around what their website's doing, what's available out there in terms of data. And so it's kind of cool, Cliff. I think you've got this interesting perspective of both having your own agency, also helping agency owners with your tool. And so you get to see a lot of different agencies trying lots of different strategies and tactics. And so you're going to be talking today about your agency sales framework, that sales don't just happen. You create them. And for our audience, I think this is a really important topic to be covering right now as you go into this holiday season, because a lot of agencies get it in their mind that, that December is going to be a slow month or January is going to be a slow month. And I think the main message I hope people take from today is you have a lot of control over your agency signing clients and helping to grow your revenues and have your most successful Black Friday, Cyber Monday, fourth quarter of 2022 this year than you've ever had in your business. So Cliff, welcome to the program, man. Great to have you here.
Brent, pleasure to be here and be able to share the expertise that I have running an agency and my sales process. Just like you, I do believe we have full control, and I'm excited to be able to share the process I use. And I believe Q4 is a great opportunity to actually grow your agency, because it's the place where, for example, our agency sets a framework for the next year, right? So I think what we're going to be sharing here should be applied over the next couple of weeks to help generate more sales in agencies' businesses.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to throw your presentation up there front and center, and why don't you take it from here?
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. So, hey, everyone, I appreciate you giving me your time. My promise to you today is to be able to share my agency sales framework from start to finish. If you're anything like me, then you probably maybe don't like sales or don't feel like you're great at sales. But the framework I will be sharing with you today is the agency framework I use in my business day in and day out, and has helped me close multi-million dollars in revenue. And my hope is that with what I share with you today, you will be able to take it and apply it to your business where you see fit starting tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get started. I think there is a place to ask questions. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll address them as I think at the end. Okay, cool. So I want to let you know that this is a blueprint. At the end of the day, I will be giving you a framework that you can follow through and then implement into your business. I believe sales don't just happen, you create them. It doesn't matter where you are in your agency. Let's say you were just starting out and you get just a couple of leads coming in to your business, or you're an established agency and you have dozens of leads coming in. At the end of the day, you need to show up, and you need to show all those ideal leads that you are the solution for their problems, and you are the person that they want to work with. And in order to do that, I believe that you need to be able to establish your authority, build some trust, and demonstrate your expertise. And in doing that, I believe you'll be able to close more deals. So simply put, unless you're able to deliver value, establish to them that you are the person who can solve that problem, and build some trust along the way, I believe it's very hard to close the sale. So what I will be doing in this presentation is sharing my agency V4 framework that helps you identify and determine what problem they really have. That's the visibility issue. be able to determine how to deliver value to the customer or the prospect, so they walk away saying, oh yeah, you know what, this wasn't a sales call, it truly was a strategy call. And being able to give them a vision of a better tomorrow, and then ultimately validate their challenges and issues so that they feel like they were heard and not being sold to. And ultimately, when you do that well, I believe you close the sale. So before we get started, I just want to give you a little context of who I am and why you should listen. I started my website business over 2 decades ago, as Brent mentioned. And in 2000, I sold my first website for $400. I don't know what your first website was or what you sell websites for now, but since then we've closed many multi-six-figure projects. Most of our projects range between that $12,000 to $25,000 range for brochure lead gen websites for 7 and 8 figure businesses. What I discovered along the way is it doesn't matter whether you're selling to mom and pop businesses or Fortune 500 companies. The process and the framework and the takeaways I'll be sharing here will work no matter what you're doing. Okay, so no matter what you're doing, I'm excited to be able to share my V4 agency sales framework with you. I am not sure, again, what your sales process looks like, so I'm going to be sharing what that looks like before I actually speak to a prospect. Okay, so in our agency, probably 2/3 of the leads that come into our sales pipeline inbound are not qualified leads, right? So that means that I'm generally speaking to 2 out of 3 people. I'm speaking to 1 out of 3 people, sorry, and 2 out of 3 move into some sort of sequence where we educate them and nurture them, and maybe down the road they become a fit, or we point them in the right direction of someone else who can help them. So our goal in that sales prospecting, in our sales qualification process, is to ask them questions like, what are the problems they're looking to fix? What's it costing their business? Why they're looking now? What would that solution look like if it was solved? The reason we ask those questions is, one, we want to ensure that the company that's reaching out to us, we can actually solve their problem. And if we solve that problem, we can charge on value for the services and the outcomes that we provide them. Okay, so these are the type of questions we ask them. If they respond saying, hey, this is what's going on, and they fill out our intake form and then schedule a call, that's when I speak to them. And when I speak to them, this is the process then I take them through. Okay, now it's really important for those of you that don't do any sales prep at all. I highly recommend you do that. This is, again, what our agency does. I believe that failing to plan is planning to fail. So what do we do when we get an ideal prospect booking on my calendar? What I'm doing first is I'm asking them to fill out our review form and our intake form. So I'm reviewing the answers from that. I am then taking a quick look, because most of our core agency services are web design, local GBP, GMB, search engine optimization. So I'm quickly taking an analysis of what that looks like for the prospect. And I might even do a little research on LinkedIn or Facebook just to understand who I am speaking with, if I happen to be speaking with the business owner or the director of sales. And that gives me some personal understanding and context of ultimately who I'll be speaking with and how to possibly approach that sales call. And then my sales call outline, this is really simple. There's a quick meet and greet. I'm spending no more than 60 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes to tell them a little bit about us. This is, hey, here's our playbook. These are the type of companies we worked with. These are the type of results you generally get. And then I'm asking questions similar to what I just shared, so I can get them to quickly state the problem they're facing, the outcome they want, and why they're looking to work with someone like us. Once they state that, at the end, when I ultimately go through my sales process, if they have challenges, most of the time it's going to be them struggling with, oh, well, I told Cliff, I had to deal with this problem, and it was going to solve potentially a $300,000 or $500,000 or $200,000 problem, and now I'm struggling with investing potentially like $20,000 in this case to solve this problem. And then that becomes unrealistic for them to even perceive that reality on their own. So that's why we ask these questions. And then ultimately the goal is to get insights to where they are and how we can help them. And then we address the objections at the end and present next steps, which is discovery, which ultimately, for those of you who don't know, there's plenty of information out there, but those are strategic, paid sessions that they go back and forth where we talk about their business, their ideal customer persona, the marketing strategy, and then some of the technical scope of work. Cool. So let's jump into the V4 agency sales framework. The first V stands for visibility. Most leads, when they're speaking to you, will say things like, hey, you know, I need a website or I need SEO. But the reality is they're just presenting the problem. If you keep asking why, which I'll be covering, then they'll ultimately say something like, oh, you know, our sales team was not able to meet our quota last year because of COVID or economic uncertainty, and we're looking to generate another $300,000. Now you know that the website is trying to solve that gain or that problem. Ultimately, the next V is value. Leads are sick and tired of being sold to, right? It's just sales, sales, sales. They jump on a call, we present it potentially as value, and then ultimately it becomes a sales call, and then they feel pressured into buying. But the reality is we look at delivering value. So when we identify what the problem is, we're able to show versus tell and deliver some value. And then the next V is a vision. Every person who's jumping on any call or a strategy session, or think about when you're looking to buy a car, at the end of the day, you have a vision of a better future, maybe in the sports car, an SUV for your family, whatever that may look like. And our goal there is to give them a vision of a better tomorrow. And then lastly, not every sale is going to lead in them buying your core service offering. That means for us, maybe a full redesign or digital marketing package. Sometimes we need to get our foot in the door, get some quick wins. And so we talk about the last V, which is validation. We want to make sure that our prospect or even our existing customers feel heard and that we're not slick salesmen. In fact, we're trusted partners and we're looking to provide them with the best solution for their current problem and needs. So the visibility here, this is ultimately shedding light. So when you have a prospect telling you something like, hey, thanks so much for jumping on this call with me. Really what I need is a website. Your job is to ask them questions, right? So questions like, hey, why do you need a website? You know, and if they say something like, well, no one's calling or we're not getting enough customers, well, what do you think the website would do? How important is it if you got X more calls? What would that result in? And then ultimately, for example, we've had people say things like, hey, you know, we've had a decrease in sales of 30%, or we believe that if we do this website effectively for this remodeling company, then we could get, you know, another 3 to 5 remodel jobs a month, and each one of those is worth $10,000. So, you know, that's $30,000 to $50,000 in potential sales that they would be making, and that is the true problem. So your goal on this call is to show them why their current website, for example, if they're not getting enough leads and why their website's not converting the visitors into customers, you want to show them why that's happening and how you can solve that. Okay, so the idea here is by asking these questions, right? You want the leads to be able to see the gap. When you ask them questions like, what is your primary goal? What has gotten in the way of achieving it? And ultimately, what can be achieved by solving this problem? You take them from the I am in this place as is, I am struggling with this problem. And then you get them to say, well, if this was solved, it would ultimately result with this in my business. In this case, it might be $300,000 in additional revenue for my business. And that's where they want to be. The gap is the area of visibility that you want to solve. So in our agency, we have not found a better way to do this than audits. In fact, this is why we built My Web Audit back in 2018. Before that, we patched together reports from multiple different companies and spent hours in sales prep putting all of this together. And now we've, in essence, built a system that in 3 to 5 minutes, we literally can ultimately identify areas of opportunity and then deliver that value. Okay. So again, on these sales calls, our goal here is to deliver value. We want them to say, okay, you know what? Cliff took the time to understand our business. He's identified areas of opportunity. Instead of telling me about SEO or web design, he's actually showed to me what are the challenges. And so what we do here is we then tell them things like, look, tell us why you need a website. And they tell us a few things, or they might say things like, well, we have this website. It's not only not converting, but it's not getting traffic. So then we'll tell them things like, okay, look, in our analysis here, you've told us things like you need a website or SEO. In reality, you've ultimately told us things like, hey, our issues are more traffic, more leads, or we have a slow site that's not converting, so that's losing leads, right? So our goal on the sales call is to make sure that the leads time matters by delivering value. So what we do, so for example, in this case, what we're trying to do is figure out their needs and wants that they state. Then we drive that down into usually 2 to 3 issues that we want to focus on. And then from there, we are showing versus telling them what that really looks like. So for example, with a poor website that needs more traffic, we might show versus tell them some areas of on-page SEO, or we might talk to them about their Google Business or Google My Business profile and talk to them about optimizing that and why it doesn't have enough reviews and it's not in the right category. And maybe sometimes they don't have the proper link to their website. Then we might talk to them about once they get that traffic, because we've optimized their local SEO, for example, once they get the website getting visitors, then we talk to them and say, hey, look, these are 3 areas that we might want to solve right now, which is make sure your phone number is visible, make sure that you have some social proof like testimonials, and then we realize that your site is, loading in 7 or 8 seconds. We want that sub 2 or 3 seconds to be able to get more visitors to navigate your site easily, and then ultimately figure out if you are the solution for them. So we are doing this, and we are doing this by showing them versus telling them about our services in an audit. And I'm just going to drop out of here just so y'all have a visual, okay? And this, by the way, whether or not you use My Web Audit, you can use any tool to sort of do this. We believe My Web Audit works really well, but what I want to do is just quickly show you what that looks like, okay? Because I'm just telling you about the points, but let me show you what that looks like here quickly. So in our reports, what we do is we present them. We do not overwhelm our clients with a bunch, or our prospects with a bunch of information. So it might be something just like this. So for example, if we identified conversion optimization to be an issue, we would jump in here, we would talk to them about what conversion optimization looked like. And then we would say, hey, look, you don't have a lead capture form. That's one thing you need, or a newsletter or a thank you page or whatever that is. And we present specifically that. We don't go through and go over everything. Our goal here is to just be top of mind, to let them know that we understand what their problem is and that we can help solve that. Okay. So then once we move from delivering some value, at the end of the day, we want to be able to reassure them of this vision. And to me, I believe that's a vision of a better tomorrow. Okay. So the secret here is that you should know, when presenting audits or going through your sales call, don't go through a bunch of problems, or don't go through and give a whole bunch of action items that the business owner should do. At the end of the day, business owners, just like us in our agency or whoever the sales director is they have a plate full of work, right? They have fires to put out. And what you don't want to do is jump on a call and then tell them about all these other fires they need to put out. What you want to be able to do is effectively position your services so they look at it and say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for showing us this gap of where we are, and we want to solve that gap. We really want you to come in and solve these problems, right? So the idea here is during the sales call, we're asking them things like, our strategy call, we're asking them things like, look, ultimately, now that you have this idea of rebuilding your website or focusing on SEO, ultimately, what does that investment look like? And we're looking for some sort of budget range. At the end of the day, before we get to this part of the presentation, ideally, even before we jump onto the call, we have an idea of the investment budget. But our goal here is to tell them, look, you have these problems. If, for example, the website is dated 10 years ago and slow and has poor copy and no conversion optimization, our point here is not to try to get our foot in the door and tell them, hey, look, just solve this, because the reality is you're probably not going to get some results. So our goal here is to figure out where they are and provide them a vision of a better tomorrow, right? In order for them to succeed, we've given them now a list of common issues that we've identified that needs to be resolved. Some of those are low effort and ultimately are going to be high impact. That might be things like putting some testimonials above the fold, putting their phone number, setting that to setting some of the case studies in a more visible place, possibly, or if it's the GMB, that might be, recategorizing them, optimizing the description, whatever that might end up being. Examples of, and here are some examples of low effort, low impact, talking about the fave icon or, adding social share buttons on Facebook. That's probably not going to do very much to them. But what you might be able to do that's low effort is spend a few hours to optimize their page or look at their GMB profile, identify if their hosting is actually, set up to deal with performance. And if it's not, talk to them about that switch. And those might be things that you can do in a day or two versus potentially asking for thousands and thousands of dollars and weeks or months of waiting before they see results. And then obviously, if their site is really bad, then you want to talk to them and ultimately talk about some high effort, high impact things, which might be if you're doing a website, then doing a redesign. If you're focused on SEO, then that might not be just optimizing the GMB, but talking about a content strategy and building high quality backlinks. But at the end of the day, the goal here is to see what can you showcase to them as quick wins. And if a complete redesign is not needed, then what can you show them which are low time effort investments that can potentially lead to high impact within 2 to 3 weeks, maybe less. Okay. Once you can deal with giving them a vision of a better tomorrow and reassuring them that you can help them accomplish that, then the last step is validation. For us, validation just means helping your prospect, or if you happen to be speaking to your customers, in a way that they feel heard and not being sold to. So our goal here is asking them things. I'm just going to go back a slide, right? To ask them things like, hey, restate their problem in a way that they feel heard, and reinforce your services, and then ask them, like, do you have any specific questions, right? Your goal here is not to close the sale, but to make sure they feel heard. I'll be giving you some examples of that in right here. So what we do is we leverage a framework that says feel, felt, found, that was taught to me by my old sales mentor. And our goal here is first to clarify. Okay. So if there happens to be an objection maybe like, hey, Cliff, what you've shown us has been great, but we've heard this before. I am not sure if we can invest $12,000 to do this, or you've told us like the range is 12 to 15,000, and we now need to go through discovery possibly. I'm not sure that that is something that we can invest in now. At that point, I would stop. I would clarify what the objection is. Is it an issue of price? Is it an issue of them being burnt before? I'll acknowledge the problem, and I might say something like this. Hey, John, I understand how you feel. We've had other customers feel that way as well because they've been burnt by the last web designer or SEO that they worked with. What we've found is that when we've shown them our case studies and our process and talked to them about what our ROI guarantee looks like for X service, that they have overcome that and they have seen results in 30 to 60 days versus waiting a year and then realizing that they've spent or invested X money and not got the results they found. And then I'll explore the objection by just saying, so does that address your concern? And that would be, if that was a price validation, it could be a timing thing. They might say things like, hey, you know what, like, we don't know if we can get this done in, let's just say 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And I would then again leverage the feel, felt, found methodology to go through this to ensure that I make sure that I understand how they feel, address how they felt, and then show them how other people have gone through a similar journey with us. And they've found that by addressing X, that they have been able to overcome this objection and not feel like that is a hindrance from them moving forward with us. Okay, so y'all can take a screenshot of this, or I believe this is being recorded. So feel free to kind of come back to this. But the reality is, for the 4 steps that we have, there are a couple of different things that we innately check through here, from the visibility, the value, the vision, and the validation stages. and we walk through this. And the more you do this innately, the more you will be able to you obviously not have something like this and do it naturally. Okay. So if you are struggling with sales or figuring out, maybe you're not so eloquent with the words, and need a framework, I highly recommend you take a look at this and see how you can implement it in your business. Once I am done with that call, generally I have an idea, and what's neat is the next step for us is to go through a paid session, because we've taken the time to analyze their website or their SEO or anything like their local presence. We have delivered a ton of value on this call. Okay, so the goal here is to qualify heavily, so then the people that you speak to, you deliver a lot of value, and then from there, our next step is what we call paid discovery, which is strategic sessions to help better understand their scope of work, narrow that down, understand who they serve, what they're looking to implement, why, at a greater detail, because we tell them straight up, like, no one, I don't believe any agency owner or freelancer should be putting together some sort of agreement to help a business get better results over a 30 or 45-minute call. They should have a better understanding of the business, and the business themselves should invest in whoever they're speaking to better ensure that they know what they're dealing with, so that they don't have scope creep, budget creep, unexpected expectations would lead to disappointment and resentment, things like that, right? And then that investment for us generally looks like somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000. We're usually looking at that being about 10% of the project cost we're looking at. Cool. And we have some blogs on My Web Audit around like discovery and how that looks like, as well as an in-depth setup of questions we ask in discovery and how we go through this proposal. I wanted to let you know, I'm just going to go through this really quick, that this framework that I've shared, it actually works, and it works really well, and it's worked for hundreds of people, thousands of people. I'm guessing in your agency, you have a similar framework, maybe just not labeled this way or in that sequence. But here is Mike, Josiah. And by the way, this is just, again, this concept of identifying how to use audits and in figuring out the visibility, delivering the value, giving them a vision of a better tomorrow by telling them, if you solve this gap, you can get X result, and then closing the deal. What I'm doing here now is breaking this down, all right, to show you how this actually works. And I'm giving you two, probably in my case, Brent, you'd have told me, hey, Cliff, this is a red flag client. Or prospect, you probably shouldn't spend some time with them. This was during COVID. And so I was looking to give back to our community. And so I wanted to show you how someone who reached out, who had worked with us back in like 17, 18, reached out to us and said things like, hey, do you do voice SEO? They didn't even really know what they were talking about. And so I told them, look, we generally charge for an assessment, but because of XYZ, we're happy to help them out, right? Like the initial question was something like, hey, we do, do you do, in essence, make websites voice searchable? And that's really not even what they were looking for, right? So when I reached out to him, just saying, hey, would you like an assessment? Like literally, take a look. These are all the red flags, right? Like, we are a small business. I happen to know, because we worked with them in 17, that they're a 7-figure business, yet they still look at themselves as small. And that's understood. They cannot spend money. They've done SEO work. They've been burnt before. As promised, they got a whole bunch of fake promises, didn't get results. We've been burnt by an SEO company, right? So these are all the highlights of challenges. I want to let you know, no is not always no. Understand that some prospects have been burnt, and they have a history. And because of that, they respond in a specific manner, right? And so my goal in my agency, and actually in my life completely, is to lead with value. I try to figure out who I can really deliver value with, so not everyone I can speak to, I can deliver value to. So I don't speak to everyone, but whenever I can, I try to lead with value. So I responded saying, hey, I understood where you were coming from. We've helped, again, same stuff that I've told you. We've helped numerous companies rank on Google. I wanted to offer something special. Usually I would charge X. But look, I did a review. So what I did is I created, again, a quick audit. It took me 5 minutes, and I just did a video walkthrough. I did not want to spend time in this case to do a full 30-minute call and not see if that was a fit. So what I did was I just ran the audit, and then I just covered a couple of different things in less than 5 minutes. And I just told him, like, watch the video and you can see the difference of us versus other people. Reach out if you want. Here's, here's what our local SEO plans with and start with, and there's where it goes. And I told him I'd be able to deliver ROI. And if we did that for you, I kind of needed to get some information. And boom, just a heads up, right? I reached out to them and I said, hey, look, not only did I look at your SEO, I also did a complete audit of your website. It really was 40 plus pages. I'm going to give you another video. Quickly take a look at that. Have a good weekend. And literally his response was like, would you come train a few salespeople for us? Ultimately, he told us what was going on. We closed the deal. And look, we delivered on that promise. And he responded back. Like, we're talking about this being somewhere in late June. By August, he was like, look, we're getting calls, we're getting new projects coming in, and that's what that looks like. And that ultimately ended up being a $12,000 website and a $2,500 a month retainer, right? We've had these use cases time and time again, whether it's someone who was burnt and needed SEO, or someone who reached out to us and said like, hey, we only have $5,000 and we only want to invest $5,000. And I then have a call with them and I talk to them. This happened to be recently a law firm, and how we used an audit to take them from a $3,000 to $5,000 website into a 5-figure deal by asking them questions, asking them what, in this case, a bankruptcy lawyer, what was that customer worth to them, and if we could get X number of customers to them, what that value could look like, and why they wanted to spend $5,000, where they came up with that number from. And by asking the right questions and then taking them through this process again of showing them where they are, their GMB, their website, and then how, if we could just, literally convert another 1%. Now that sounds weird, because think about it. If you have 100 visitors, you get 3 leads, that's 3% conversion. If you can just convert one more, and that lead may be worth $3,000 or $5,000 or more dollars, then just making those changes with the website could be worth adding $3,000 to $5,000 or $10,000 worth of additional revenue for that business. And so we're really ROI focused, and that's the process we take. So I just want to let you know, if you've enjoyed this presentation and you want to easily create your 4 Vs in your agency leveraging audits, then obviously take a look at myweboudit.com. No sales pitch there. I do want to close with saying, look, no matter where you are in your agency or what you have sold, as Brent said, you get to control your sales process and you get to control the trajectory of your business. And one of the big things that we do, and I want to just close with this, is to say that we look at our client roster usually around the end of Q3. And in Q4, we reach out to them and we tell them, hey, look, in this case, like, our approach has been, we are going through uncertain economic situations right now. We went through COVID. We don't really know what 2023 brings, but our goal is for you to have a strong year, hopefully your best year ever. And in order to do that, we would like to set up an annual strategy call with you. And since this is Q4, we want to make sure we have that framework in place so that we know what to do in 2023 to get you the best results possible. And then we send an email, we run some audits, we talk to them about their goals, we align their goals with the findings we've identified, and then we get to work. And obviously that requires them reinvesting in our services, sometimes adding a new service, or sometimes incrementally increasing their development or marketing retainers with us, or starting something with us. And if you check out My Web Audit and go to the bottom and go to playbooks, we have something called the annual client meeting playbooks, and you can check that out. But I want to let you know, Brent has known me for ages, and so he knows, he knew me when these girls were babies, and the struggle I had working 70, 80-hour weeks. And I want to just let you know that there is a reality that you can live of being able to do what you want with who you want when you want. And in order to do that, you need to be able to get control over your leads and sales in order to ensure that you have a predictable revenue month to month in your agency. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time. We have a group. Oops. If you want to join that. And I think now we'll jump into a Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Cliff. Awesome to have you here, man. I love the V4 framework. I love all the work you do with agency owners all across the globe. And I can tell you that a lot of agencies, whether they're My Web Audit customers or not, have used the V4 framework successfully in their business. And just excited that you are sharing that. If you are watching right now and you'd like to ask Cliff a question, let us know in the comments. We'll spend a few minutes here with Cliff before we close out for the day. One of the examples you showed, this was one of my questions, Cliff. We'll start there. Was of like the bad fit lead come in. And I love that you're like, hey, Brett probably would tell me to not pitch this, right? And I think it ended well in that opportunity. I love the case study. I love how you were able to change their mindset and shift them, from kind of that limited mindset to more of an abundant mindset. But is there a point where if you had gotten other indicators after some of those follow-ups that you would have said, hey, maybe the red flags are piling up on us here and we probably should, avoid this client?
Yes, most definitely. Honestly, Brent, if that had happened today, like let's say last week, I would have said, hey, I wish you the best of luck. And I might have sent them, like I know a few kids who are in college, and I would have sent them an intro out there and called it good, only because we were going through COVID that I said, hey, you know what, let me do this. But it was so interesting because it allowed me to see this. And I followed that process a couple of times with less red flags, and it's worked. But yeah, most definitely, I probably speak to a third of all the leads that come into a pipeline, precisely because of the fact that we have an investment range and we look to solve outcomes. So sometimes we'll get someone saying, hey, I have a website, like last week, I have a website for a hip hop band. And I knew that was not a fit for us. So I just said, hey, here's an email with an intro, and that's it. So most definitely, I wouldn't generally not even speak to that client now. Yeah.
Very nice. And are you, I know you've got the audit, in that example, I think you use the audit as kind of a, something that you could use to almost like warm somebody up, right? Like get them more interested in your agency. Are you ever charging for this with folks?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brent. We have two scenarios in our agency. Since I work with 7- and 8-figure companies, and we charge what we charge, generally I'm leading with value upfront. But when it comes to, and so I give them away for free, okay, because I've heavily qualified who I'm speaking with. Now, for e-commerce businesses, though, we do charge $2,000, and we run through the e-commerce audit that takes us from homepage all the way out through checkout and thank you. We bring that report, we give them 4 hours of consulting, and that's $2,000. And we charge for that. Every now and then we might find, we do this less and less now because of our pipeline, but in the past we have charged $4.99 as a lead, like a foot in the door productized offer for on-page SEO or GMB. So for example, our GMB productized offer is run the audit and optimize it for $4.99. If they aren't looking to redesign their site, for example, then what we would do is we would sell an on-page SEO audit for up to 4 pages and optimization for 4 pages for $1,000. And so we do have some productized offerings using audits, but majority of the time we're leveraging it in our sales process to deliver value, establish authority, and build some trust in the fact that we know what we're talking about. Like think about the lead that we spoke to that we ended up closing. What we did was we said to them, look, you said this last guy did SEO for you. Let me actually show you what we do in this audit that was never done. And so in their mind, they were like, oh, well, hopefully in their mind, they were like, so instead of this guy just selling SEO, he's shown me a few areas that were never touched by whoever, and if hopefully optimized, will drive results.
Not all SEOs are equal, maybe is the headline there.
Most definitely.
This question is around what is the one red flag that made you start thinking about the V4 framework, or maybe what was kind of the catalyst for you in turning your sales system into more of a framework and a process?
ultimately, this all started from being able to stand out from the competition. So in this case, before I had got into mentoring programs like UGurus years ago, I would just spend hours trying to, I was a small business, trying to shop my services against multi 7-figure and 8-figure businesses all around Arizona. And so I had to find a way to differentiate myself. And that led to putting, a lot of time in sales prep and figuring out how to deliver that value. And so naturally, I believe over time, this framework came into place. This framework was worked on, like I did not create this, years ago and then call it the V4 framework. Ultimately, like as you mentioned, lots of agencies have sales processes, and we just put an acronym around it, and it stemmed from being able to differentiate myself and deliver value so I could close the deal. And so I tell people, if you leverage this V4 framework, you get to solve ultimately the 3 issues, which I believe is delivering value, gaining visibility, and establishing authority and expertise. If you do that well in your sales calls or in your sales process, in fact, I believe if you do this well in your lead gen process, you are more effective. I don't know if that fully answered the question, but like, it's not like I came up with this, wrote this down. I started realizing what I was doing. Then I worked with Rickson, and he was like, dude, here's how you kind of put it all together, to be honest. You know what I mean?
The Rickson, the one and only Rickson, was behind the V4 a little bit. It's your ideas, but he put a little sizzle on it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What would you tell agency owners as we go into, not just Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but people are talking about recession, inflation. I mean, what do you think is going to be the impact for agencies, and how can they navigate that?
Yeah. It'll be a similar advice I gave people during COVID. What was interesting is our agency had our best year in 2020. And then again, a record-breaking year in 2021. And we're blessed to say that that's happening again. And I believe the secret to that, Brent, is focusing on driving results for businesses. I believe whether you're in economic uncertainty or not, at the end of the day, businesses need to thrive, right? To keep their doors open, pay the employees, and put some money in the bank. And so I actually believe that our agency services are needed now more than ever. The question is, are you able to articulate the value or the outcome of your services and stop speaking about them as just web design or SEO, and instead talk to them about it generating leads or driving more qualified traffic to their business?
Very good, man. I love those timeless strategies for business owners, whether it's COVID, whether it's recession or inflation, how to grow their business successfully. One last question for you, because you've been an awesome guest for us here. You've dropped lots of knowledge for our audience, but do you have any final words about our Black Friday, Cyber Monday Prepathon, and how did you find the experience as one of our amazing guest experts?
You know what, Brent, I love the fact that you all were able to put together a panel of people that are practitioners in their space. I'm learning from it. I was able to catch a little bit of, I think, your presentation with Jason Swank earlier. I say, hey, take notes and apply it. Like the whole big thing here, many of us, and I've been to conferences where we go and we're like, it's amazing. When you come back home, you have analysis paralysis. So take notes. The expertise that's being shared here is valuable, and then and apply it. That's all I'd have to say. Take it and apply it.
Well, Cliff, we love having you a part of our community of agency influencers and people that are out there helping folks every day. I know you mentioned your Facebook group earlier, the My Web Audit Facebook group. You guys do a great job. Such fantastic value and engagement. So make sure you check that out. How else can folks find out more about you? Is there anything else you have that they can check out?
Yeah, I would say check out our blog. A lot of value there. We have some playbooks. Check me out on LinkedIn if you'd like. Our Facebook group is probably the best way to engage with me. Check out myweboudit.com if you haven't. And Brent, again, a pleasure to be a part of this event. And thank you to you and the Cloudways team.
Awesome, Cliff. Thank you as well. And that is our final presentation for today on the Black Friday, Cyber Monday Prepathon. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about some best practices for blazing fast websites. So if you're looking for some of those new tactics and strategies, tactical hacks to make your website even faster, definitely check out tomorrow's Black Friday, Cyber Monday Prepathon. We've got a jam-packed day for you, as well as 2 additional days. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, more sessions coming to you to help you have an amazing Black Friday, Cyber Monday season this year. So thanks for watching today. Thanks for hanging out with us. And that is our program. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.